strange disappearance of the widow Wilson's teeth. Written and read by John Coutanche. I find it recorded in my notebook that it was a bitter, bleak morning towards the end of November in the year 1894, shortly after Holmes' inconceivable reappearance. I remained stunned, having long since reached the sad conclusion that his battle with Moriarty at the Reichenbach Falls had led to the demise of both Master Detective and Master Criminal. Yet here he was, safely re-ensconced at 221 Baker Street, and having received his telegram informing me of another heinous crime, I proceeded to his rooms in anticipation of another welcome opportunity to witness and record the work of the world's finest detective. "Ah, Watson, my good fellow, I see you have made great haste in response to my call. Pray forgive me for having interrupted you at such an inconvenient moment." "Not at all, Holmes. Leisure rather than haste was my companion this morning." Come. The specks of mud on your shoes and lower trouser leg confirm that you scurried here. You are out of breath, and that bowler is slightly askew. Moreover, you failed to button up, and it's unfortunate that London's finest haven't been granted a panoramic view of the grotesque contents of your banana and walnut shop. I blushed and swiftly buttoned up. I grant that your telegram did catch me at an inopportune moment. It's comforting to note that your powers of deduction haven't been dimmed by the Swiss trauma." Holmes snorted his contempt, and his bony hand grasped his violin. "Trauma, Watson? Nonsense." "You don't intend playing that again, Holmes? Not now we've an urgent case to investigate." "Again, Watson?" "Yes, Holmes. Your training hasn't been wasted. I'm aware that you've already inflicted your dastardly instrument upon the household this very morning." Holmes smiled. "Ah, Watson, you'll have seen the slight red mark on my chin where the violin rested, and also noted the stiffness in the fingers of my right hand where I gripped the bow." "No, Holmes." The great detective frowned. "Pray, enlighten me, Watson." "When I arrived, I had to knock 3 times before Mrs. Hudson answered. I inquired as to the reason, and she admitted that she's inserted 2 chunks of finest cheddar in her ears and tied an old pair of bloomers around her head. It would appear that she's not your greatest musical fan." "Fiddlesticks! That sense of humour exceeds your medical talents 1,000-fold, Watson. But for now we need to conclude this banter and make haste across this great metropolis. My skills are urgently required by a heartbroken widow. Pray, call a hansom while I don my cape and deerstalker, for this weather is foul." Within the half hour, we'd pulled up at a not insubstantial property in Battersea, and, leaving me to settle up with the cabby, Holmes sprang up and tugged on the doorbell. It was answered within seconds by a pale young girl with a nervous demeanour. "My name is Holmes, young lady. Myself and my fine companion, Dr. Watson, have an appointment with your mistress. Please make haste, as I understand that a crime of heinous proportions occurred here last evening." The girl motioned us into the hallway and disappeared to inform her mistress of our arrival. Within seconds we were shown into the parlour, where a middle-aged woman stood, tears in her eyes and a lace handkerchief covering her mouth. "Mrs. Wilson, I presume," uttered my colleague. "Indeed, and thank you for your swiftness, sir. This matter is most embarrassing, and I am aware that, unlike the local constabulary, you are a gentleman of unlimited ability and discretion." While making this utterance, the woman continued to cover her mouth. Holmes sat down, his heavy dark brows knotted together in concentration, and his long nervous fingers tapping at the arms of the chair. "Proceed, madam. I'm at your service, so please relate precisely what crime has taken place." "My teeth have been stolen, sir." "Teeth, madam? Did I hear you correctly? Upon my word, are you telling me that some wicked scoundrel has broken in and made off with them?" "Well, not exactly, Mr. Holmes." "Pray continue," said Holmes in his soothing way, for he had a remarkable gentleness and courtesy in his dealings with women. Even though he disliked and distrusted the sex, he was ever chivalrous in his deliberations. I feared I saw the poor wretch blush as she pushed her blonde locks aside. "I invited the culprit into my home, sir. I have formed an acquaintance with him over recent weeks, under the impression that he was both honourable and genuine. This morning, when I awoke, I found that he had disappeared and stolen my teeth from a glass at the side of the bed." Are you saying that this man was invited to stay overnight, madam? The widow looked away. I'm a woman with needs, Mr. Holmes, and last evening I needed the company of a male friend. Holmes' long, thin face took on a perplexed look. I'm afraid that I find the motives of the fair sex somewhat inscrutable, madam. Pray tell me, did this bounder make off with anything else? Indeed, Mr. Holmes, I have scrutinized my belongings carefully, and appear to be missing 2 gold brooches, a pocket watch, and approximately £10 in cash. However, it is the theft of my teeth that gives me the greatest concern. How can a young lady face the world without them? Mrs. Wilson began to sob loudly into her handkerchief. What name and address did he give you, madam? Through stifled sobs she croaked a response. He told me his name is Troy de Glanville, but I've no idea as to his abode. He always visited me here. Pray describe him. I estimated he's in his early 40s, of medium height and build, dark hair, beard and moustache, somewhat swarthy, sir. Holmes nodded. I think I've obtained as much information as I need, dear lady. I must depart henceforth, but please be assured that I shall return imminently. We took our leave of the weeping widow, and I struggled to keep pace with Holmes as he careered along the pavement, deep in thought. Holmes, your mind is like a racing engine, but surely even you have insufficient information to solve this crime. On the contrary, Watson, I believe I've gleaned all the pertinent detail. Let us proceed directly to Brixton. I sense the work of an old adversary. Flag down this passing hansom. We've not a moment to lose. As we arrived, Holmes directed the cabby to a small run-down property in a mean side street. If I'm not mistaken, Watson, the cad resides here. Hopefully we're not too late. Pay the man whilst I alight. Shaking my head, I settled up and followed Holmes down the steps. He rapped on the door, and a small, rubby urchin of indeterminate age appeared. Is your father in, boy? The lad visibly shook as Holmes darted into the gloomy passageway. As he entered the kitchen, we espied a man attempting to climb out of the window. Holmes sprang like a tiger and grabbed him in a vice-like grip. Not so fast, Reg. I think you have some items belonging to a lady friend of mine. The man groaned and sank his face in his hands. I should have known that you'd nab me again, Mr. Holmes. Please, sir, don't send me back to the scrubs. I meant no harm. No harm? By Jove, you left a woman bereft and toothless. I got the jewellery and readies here, sir. Another 10 minutes and I'd have pawned the gold, but you've outsmarted me once again. And her teeth? If you hadn't stolen them, you may well have got away with it. I swear I only took him so no other fellow would suffer like what I did. Suffer? Explain, you heartless vagabond. That harlot's a demon in a dress, sir. Sure, my aim was always to gain her confidence and nick stuff, but when she offered herself to me, well, I couldn't say no, could I? She came at me like a terrier with a rat, and I had no idea them gnashes was false. She gave a wicked sneeze while downstairs and bit me on the old John Thomas with 'em. You want to see me bruises? We shook our heads in perfect unison. That won't be necessary, Reg. So what happened next? As soon as she'd had her wicked way, she fell into a deep slumber, but not before removing her gnashes. I waited a good hour, then grabbed the jewels and cash, and just as I was leaving, my eyes feasted on them. I slipped them into my pocket to teach her a lesson, see? Holmes shook his head. Upon my word, Watson, this isn't a case I'd like to place in front of a jury. The lady will end up a laughing-stock. Give me everything you stole, including the teeth, Reg, and if you agree to mend your ways, you'll hear no more of it. Why, thank you, Mr. Holmes. You're a real gent and no mistake. I learnt my lesson, honest I have. I doubt that very much, but if our paths cross again, you'll be straight in the slam house, God be my witness. Thank you, sir. You won't regret this. Holmes pocketed the goods, and we made a swift exit, arriving in Battersea within the hour. Mrs. Wilson was delighted, and as she slipped the offending teeth in, I realized that she was a good deal younger than I previously thought, and somewhat easy on the eye. I'm convinced she winked in my direction. Now, gentlemen, will you take tea with me, a poor widow woman, all alone in the world? I'd welcome that pleasure, madam, but Watson and I have urgent business elsewhere. May I please trouble you to settle my fee, and we'll be on our way. She definitely winked at me this time. Is there any other way I can make the payment, kind sirs? Holmes rubbed at his crotch. A cheque will be absolutely fine, Mrs. Wilson. She licked her lips and reached for her checkbook, a look of pure disappointment on her eager face. Back at Holmes' rooms in Baker Street, I relaxed in an easy chair, watching him suck on the stem of his pipe. "So how did you know it was him, Holmes?" "Elementary, my friend. You'll have noted that we've crossed paths on several occasions. That thieving knave's vanity knows no bounds, and he realized that Troy de Glanville would impress Mrs. Wilson far more than his real name of Reginald Toverley. Once I gleaned his description, it was merely a matter of rearranging the letters, a perfect anagram, and from previous encounters I knew he's resided in that hovel since the good Lord was a boy. As ever, Holmes, your powers of reasoning know no boundaries." "Exactly, Watson. That incident at the falls has, if anything, served to sharpen my perception. One thing I ask of you, though, my friend." "Anything, Holmes. What is it?" "Omit this case from your annals, Watson. Whilst the Victorian public takes great pleasure in the penny dreadful, I fear they are ill prepared for such a delicate saga." I chuckled and sipped my tea. "Definitely, Holmes. Now I think I'll avail myself of another of Mrs. Hudson's delectable crumpets. I need to build up my stamina for an important rendezvous this evening." Holmes raised a quizzical eyebrow. "Not with a certain lady in Battersea?" I smiled and placed my forefinger over my lips. "No comment, Holmes." "If so, may I provide some timely advice, Watson?" "What's that, Holmes?" "Ensure that she removes her teeth early on in the proceedings, my friend. You may be a doctor of no little skill, but stitching yourself is something I definitely wouldn't recommend."